When I am here, I feel in my body its newly off-kilter seasons. I feel thirsty for real rain like a tree would, and spend restless days or weeks indoors, avoiding the smoke from sometimes hundreds of wildfires. And still, such beauty. The summer in Mendocino, when I first read Always Coming Home, the ferns were a little brown at the tips, the birds seemed dazed and hot, the creek was patchy. Around town, desperate signs urged us to conserve. The town was nearly out of water. I was sitting out on a stump, reading much more slowly than I normally do, often taking breaks from the text to look up at the forest, whose small movements I felt more attuned to. Every now and then some of the animals from the book wandered into my clearing, the liquid-eyed fox that gazed at me for a moment before slinking away, the immensely talkative woodpeckers who held long, angry-sounding conversations just out of sight. It was an experience I had never quite had before or since in my reading life, one of utter transparency. It felt, at times, less like I was reading and more like I was looking through. The book's utopia was almost visible to me, shimmering like heat in the day's air. That shimmer of possibility is akin to hope. Always Coming Home investigates a point in the unfixed future after Northern California has been destroyed by the forces that are currently overtaking it and remade anew. What happens in the Valley of Na to the Kesh people whose culture and landscape, animals and other non-human people this book takes as its center, have not yet happened, but will happen. From all the strange certainty of that future tense, this remarkable novel takes its energy. Here we are, grounded in the Kesh's present culture, which looks a little at first like our understandings of other indigenous American cultures. But as we get our bearings, the Kesh and surrounding communities become distinct, science-fictional, and we see the edges of what came before. What happened to that society that drove itself into ruin? The culture, ours, that preceded the Kesh? And what became of the pre-colonized cultures that were there before? You may be sensing already that in order to ask these questions, the book has to do something, formally, that novels rarely allow themselves to do. To loose itself from the strictures of the addictive narrative arc. If the engine of narrative is conflict, then what happens if a story organizes itself around another center? What a dangerous question, one that risks nearly everything. Most pressingly risks losing the reader's precious attention. Le Guin is conscious of the danger and starts her novel off with a sly bait and switch. That is, she starts with a story. It's a nice, normal, conflicty one of a young girl, North Owl, coming of age between two worlds. One is that of the Kesh, whose peaceful matriarchal society the book spends most of its time investigating. The other is the Condors, her absent father's people, a warlike patriarchal society doomed to replicate the same failures of an apocalyptic past. A past that closely and at times satirically mirrors our own. As North Owl meets her father for the first time and is introduced to the possibility of life beyond the Kesh, Le Guin imparts many of the customs and features of the culture she has created in that elegant, offhand way of hers. This entire book could have been North Owl's, the philosophies that underlie the life of the Kesh imparted to us through her voice and experience. But her story ends, or rather, and rather abruptly, it stops. It is only an excerpt of her autobiography, of which, at the beginning, we receive a few chapters. From there, we're pushed off the cliff of narrative and into poem, ritual.